welcome so much. I'm glad that all of you could join us again. It's a Monday. It feels like a Monday, and we really welcome you to another episode of the Nonprofit Show. Thanks to our presenting sponsors. You see their logos right in front of you on the screen. We're so grateful to have their support and really to have them in our corner across the nation. These companies really believe in the work you do, and they're here to elevate the conversation. So thanks so much to our presenting sponsors.
It's true. You know, I love what you say. And oftentimes you say they're in our corner in the nonprofit sector. And that's an awesome thing. I'm Julia Patrick, CEO of the American Nonprofit Academy. I'm coming to you live today from my office as we were coming on, had a little bizarre hiccup. But what's most important is that I have the nonprofit nerd herself, Jarrett Ransom, here with us today. And so I'm very, very excited because this is something that is really a special day for us. We're doing a masterclass, and we do these from time to time where one of us will come on and then take all of the years of time served in the nonprofit sector and address a particular topic or action that we've been hearing about. So I'm very excited, Jarrett, to have you come on and be my guest. You know, I always call you my nonprofit nerd, but now you're my guest. And we're going to be talking about this really cool, I'm going to call it a tool that you came up with called Funding at a Glance. So here's Jarrett's information, and you're going to want to know this, and we'll present it again at the end, because she has a PDF that you'll actually be able to download and use that tool. So the power of funding data is really where we're at.
Yes.
This is the tool, and you can email Jarrett, and she will send you a PDF. And we're going to go through this. Funding at a glance. What's this all about?
Why, right? Yes. So today is February the 1st, which means we are in, I know, I cannot believe it. We are into 2021. 2020 is so far behind us. Of course, it's really not that far behind us, but as we, it still feels like we're in 2020. And Rich Frazier and I talked about this on Friday during Asked and Answered, that it still feels like, you know, March 467 of 2020. But this funding at a glance is a conversation that I have noticed has come up with all of my clients, right? Especially from the end of the year, end of last year, into current day, present moment. And so really this funding at a glance is focused specifically on your fundraising goals. What are your initiatives? What are your efforts? And really, I always say you can't set a goal without knowing where you've been, right? And so this tool, it actually has on here 2018, 2019, and 2020, because we really want to know, funding at a glance, some of these key areas, right? Where are you? Where's your organization? So from there, we're able to make data-driven, right, informed decisions.
You know, it's so interesting. I don't believe we've ever had a guest on, and correct me if you think I'm wrong, that's actually said that. And that's your point of, you need to step back, look at what happened in the past, and then move forward. It always seems like we're all like, what's next, what's next, what's next? And I really appreciate your approach here, especially as those, and I'm looking at the tool, what are those boxes going to say for 2020?
That's right. That's right.
It's so kooky and just so different. So I'm kind of intrigued by that. And I really am kind of actually fascinated that there's something to be gleaned from the past. So you talk about this as a concept of 3-year data points.
I do. And I do that, Julia, because I really want us to track a full year, right? And so this could really be around, you okay over there?
You know, I'm in my office and so the phone just rang. I'm not in my studio. For those of
Oh, the phone. Yeah, maybe someone's calling you for this tool. Who knows? But you're going to want to email me for this tool. Don't call Julia.
I am so sorry about that.
No, so this funding at a glance really is a 3-year data point, right? Because we want to identify going back 3 years. Now, some of my clients will know that I sometimes say 5 years. If you have the data, if you have those metrics and you can do 5 years, even better. But at the bare minimum, let's look at 3 years. So I pulled 18, 19, and 20 because those are the numbers we want to look at so that we can forecast and set a goal for 2021, right? So really looking at these 3 years, benchmarking, this will help us identify, Julia, why the numbers might have gone down or why they are going up. Right? How are we trending? What are some things that might have helped to shape these numbers? What is the environment? Obviously, in 2020, the global pandemic was very prevalent, right? So when you look at your 2020 numbers, you might actually be surprised that some of your numbers are higher than the year before. And I'm going to tell you, like, we've been preaching this, Julia, since the middle of March. Well, it has to be beyond that, but there's been so much generosity over the course of the last 12 months, right? And so you might actually be surprised that your 2020 numbers are higher. I think I shared one of my clients actually brought in half of her operating budget in the last 2 months of the quarter, right? So November and December, her and her team secured $1 million. They're a $2 million organization. They secured half of that, $1 million, in simply the last 2 months of 2020. So they have far exceeded their goals that they set for 2020.
Right. And if you follow this logic and you're kind of, you become disciplined enough to use this, I would imagine that 2021 is still going to be another wackadoo period. However, it'll be a little bit more sustainable in terms of, by then organizations are adopting, new ways to go about things.
That's right.
But, I think it's fascinating to look at this in this way. And my sense of it is, Jarrett, and we're going to go deeper into some of these different categories. My sense of it is that if you could take this to funders, or potential investors, board, members, it really makes you as an organization look a lot more strategic and a lot more prepared for what comes before us.
That's right. And some of these numbers, if you have a robust donor database, a CRM system, right? These numbers may actually be on your CRM dashboard. Okay. I was just looking at a client of mine. We actually do use Bloomerang. And the first thing on the dashboard I saw was our donor retention rate. And that is definitely one of the questions on here. It's just at the bottom of this tool. So when you email me, and it is, what is your donor retention rate? And you want to know that year after year after year, because you want that number to increase.
And you were saying, I think in another one of our episodes of the Nonprofit Show, the industry average should be running at about 27%.
So I pulled that off this morning, right? Because I wanted to give like very specific data on this. And so it's actually 40 to 45% across the nation in the nonprofit sector. Right? So you really want to have at least 40% donor retention. Yes. So you're looking at that. And again, if your donor retention is low, why might it be low?
And I like that juxtaposition. And maybe what I was looking at was another organization's, rate. I think it's really important to know what that benchmark is, because otherwise that number is a little meaningless, except within the 3-year ranges.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah, very interesting. Now, another thing that you talk about on this list, and I think it's going to be, again, something very interesting, and that is the event impact, how your events have changed, if they were, IRL in real life, if they've moved to virtual, more than one, talk about that a little bit, because that's going to be a sticky wicket for a lot of nonprofits.
So the event impact, absolutely. Most of our organizations, as we've talked about, and thankful to Winspire as well, is this virtual event space, right? Like many of us either decided we're not going to have an event in 2020, or we're all moving to a virtual platform. Now, I believe this event impact one, if you had an event, I hope that you still brought in the same amount of money, if not higher. Many of us were able to cast our net and bring in attendance well beyond our normal geographic area, right? Because we do have this virtual component.
Right.
Now, I was talking to someone in this space, in the nonprofit space, Julia, and they have a very fun event that brings in attendees, but these attendees have not become donors, right? So they are paying to participate in an event, but that's all they do with this organization. So one of the goals that I gave them was, let's segment our donor database so that you have event attendees, because let's not call them donors yet. Our goal is to get them to make a first-time gift donation to the organization. Now, I'm saying first-time gift because really I think the donors are seeing the event attendance as simply attendance. They're not seeing that as a donation. So our goal is to move that needle from an event attendee into an event attendee plus a donor, which will increase their donor retention rate.
Right. And I really like that you put that up, because brought that up as a point, because I think too many of us in the nonprofit sector, we tend to count the, as they say in tourism, heads on beds.
Yeah.
We tend to count the ticket sales or the attendee list. And then we don't really drill down and say, yeah, but who is a donor? Because somebody who's attending an event and they might purchase something in the, silent auction or a live auction, technically, and then I don't know, we can have this discussion. I don't perceive them as a donor.
Right. And I wouldn't either. And that might be splitting hairs because yes, they have given to your organization. But when you really look at the motivation of that gift, they are attending an event or purchasing an item that they want, right? And so how do we take them from an attendee or a participant and deepen their relationship into the organization? So the event impact is definitely, a big one. But this tool, this funding at a glance, will really help you identify overarching, where is our revenue coming from and what has it really shown us by way of patterns and cycles over 3 years?
I love it. Another area that you have on there, which I thought was super cool, Jarrett, was that, and of course you are super cool because you are the nonprofit nerd, and that's why we're having you teach this masterclass.
Right.
But you have a delineation between the direct mail campaigns and the email campaigns or digital communications, however you want to parse that out. And I think that's really interesting because so many of us are seeing in this 3-year period a movement or a welcoming towards embracing that digital communication.
Huge. And that is not going away. Direct mail is not dead, right? We had a Beha Solutions on, and they will certainly tell you that direct mail is still a really viable revenue stream to steward, and to also solicit your donors. So again, I pulled these numbers from this morning, so let me reference my quick sheet here. So nationally, you want a direct mail response rate between 5 and 9%.
That's a lot.
5 and 9%, right? So let's say bare minimum, you want your direct mail to bring in a return on investment, ROI. I'm definitely stuck in the return on relationship. So your return on investment should be at least 5%. Now, when you combine direct mail with an email appeal, right, and you really have that going for your direct mail and your digital platform, your response rates will increase to approximately 28%.
Amazing.
Right.
Amazing.
So if you're not combining those efforts and you don't have a strategic, campaign that aligns these two platforms, both, direct mail and digital, that you're missing a big gap there, because we're looking at 5% of direct mail. And when you combine that for digital, up to 28%.
And I really like that you did it this way, because so many organizations, they're in this weird point where they have to kind of be sold to embrace these changes.
Absolutely.
If you ever needed a reason to get your leadership or development or your board or a funder or whatever the heck, on the train towards that station, this is it.
This is it. This is it, because you cannot question numbers unless your data is wrong, right? Good data in, good data out. I'm pretty sure Sasha Lewis with Moves Management would say, yes, that's so true. I don't even know if she's on today. She may be. So really looking at, your data is really only as good as you have. So make sure you put in really clean data so you can pull out really accurate numbers.
I love it. And I think too, looking at going forward, if you can understand those data points, it will make it easier to be doing this more than once a year. I mean, we've been so locked into go and blow kind of mentality. We lay it on the line for one big event, and then we wait. We exhaust ourselves, we exhaust our donors, our volunteers, our staff. It's ridiculous. And then we wait a whole cycle,
right,
before we do something again.
And that is just so wrong. It is
so
really wrong. Yeah.
Yeah. And this will help really guide you towards understanding you can do more frequency.
That's right.
Without just trashing your organization. And
so one of the things when you talk about frequency, Julia, that was a big question that came up at the end of 2020, right? Was how do we forecast our budget for 2021? How do we set goals? And we talked about creating an annual forecast, but visiting it quarterly, right? And so that is what this funding at a glance could do. You can certainly break this up into quarterly. So you can say, here's our 18, 19, 20. These are the numbers. Here's where we are to date, right? You could do it monthly, quarterly, and then, however you want to report it. This tool is wonderful, right? For your fundraising committee to make decisions, for your board, your entire board, and definitely your executive, your CEO, right? So all of this is really your data at a glance. Your fundraising dashboard on your CRM might provide this, but maybe not this extensive. So you can simply transfer some of that data here and then really visit it quarterly.
I love it. I love that approach, especially as we're in this wackadoo period of time, which isn't going away. Right?
It's not going away. And you said wackadoo twice this episode. And I love that, because we are in such a wackadoo time, right?
Yeah.
Like it's a continuation of March 467.
Which I love. I love, love, love. Okay, now you had something on this document, this tool, that I had never heard. And so I was really interested to have you explain this. You have Libunt and Sibunt.
So for all you nerds out there, this is so much fun, right? So this is really technical jargon when it comes to donor databases. Libunt and Sibunt. Last year, but unfortunately not this. So this is someone who gave to your organization last year, but unfortunately have not given this year. So I will tell you, this is low-hanging fruit. These are individuals that gave to your organization last year, as soon as last year, but they have not given this year, right? So for some of you, I know here in our community, Julia, we have the Arizona tax credit. So that is a great tool to see who gave to tax credit last year and have not contributed to our this year tax credit. Call them, right? Call them, have an outreach, have your board call them, someone reach out to last year, but unfortunately not this. And then the Sibunt is just as nerdy, which I love equally as the Libunt. And that is some year, but unfortunately not this, right? So some year, but unfortunately not this. So again, Libunt and Sibunt, they're best friends. And so really you're looking at who has given to our organization some year. They've given to us at some year, right? But not this year. So I would say they are equally low hanging fruit, not quite as equal. Well, I shouldn't say equal, right? Because last year is so frequent. It is just last year. Some year could be 2 years, 3 years, 5 years,
Okay.
right? And could be a little bit further in the distance. So that lie bunt last year and your sci bunt some year, but unfortunately not this, are two main areas that I want you to work your donors.
You know, I like that. And I think that, you know, the journey, probably the story that you tell yourself, to quote Brene Brown, you know, the story I'm telling myself is that, you know, on the side bunt, it's probably like, oh, they used to give to us, but we've lost them. And so we tend to just like write them off.
Right. So technically what we say in the fundraising world is you haven't lost them if it's been less than 3 years, right? So you may have lost them if it's past 3 years. Now I'm going to tell you, this is what I tell any new fundraiser, meaning a new fundraiser into a position, right? So they're new to this organization. I will say go back 5 years, because now you have this open door, you know, opportunity to say, I'm new with this organization, would love to get to know your story, would love to learn more about what drove you, what motivated you to give to this organization, right? So I say, if you can play a new person card, CEO, development officer, right? Like who on an executive level can play this new person card? If you can, go back 5 years, right? If you cannot, then I would say 3 years is really that magic number that we're looking at, is who might you be able to re-engage within 3 years?
Yeah, you know, Jarrett, I appreciate that you brought that up, because I think that that's a list that just gets dropped.
It does. It gets dropped, but here's the thing. Who on your board knows this person? How might they re-engage with this person, right? Like, when was the last time you reached out to them? You probably haven't had a personal phone call with them. And we all know right now, people are answering their calls. They're answering their phones. They want connection, right? We're still in this space of craving community and connection. So I wouldn't write them off. I would definitely go back and re-engage them. Inform them of how your organization is doing. Report to them how the organization is providing solutions to the community at this time. Re-engage these donors.
Right. You know, it reminds me, I served on a board once where the beginning of, and I shouldn't say it was the beginning of the meeting, but our meetings were generally held at the dinner hour. And so they would just bring in pizza and, you know, some super casual. And they always would print off these lists, and they would kind of run down the center of the conference table. And it was like, who do you know on this list?
Yeah.
And it wasn't like a pressure thing, but I mean, sometimes it was like, oh, you know, they passed away, or, you know, they've divorced, or they've moved out of town, or whatever. And then there was this call to re-engage, not ask for money, ask for money, but ask for engagement. It's what you say all the time, the ROR. How do you get the return on relationship to find out, you know, could you come? And this was obviously pre-pandemic, but would you like to come for a tour? You know, would you like to be my guest at an event? And it was just really a great thing, because I was amazed at how many of us, we would know somebody.
Yeah.
No.
Well, and think, if you took this list, and even if you identified 5 people, that could potentially make a really big change. In our community, Julia, as you know, we have snowbirds. We have people that live here part of the time, somewhere else part of the time. That is common in a lot of states, right? And so if you have that intel on your donors and you say, oh, Sally is in Idaho right now, but she'll be back. Her and her husband will be back in, I don't know what month, right? But you want to update this. This is a common one. I have been sent many solicitation, you know, letters and emails that says Mr. Jarrett Ransom. Now, I'm pretty sure, Julia, if you saw my name on this list, you would say, well, no wonder you're not getting from her, because you need to update the salutation. So even as little as that intel, it makes a big deal, right? So I say, absolutely 6 degrees of Kevin Bacon when it comes to these lists are so important. And those minor details make a really big impact. So this funding at a glance, I know we're running close to time here, is such a valuable tool. Get the tool, email me, jransom@theravengroup.com, send it to you, right? It is a PDF, but it's nothing fancy. So if you want to add quarterly, you can add quarterly to it. If you want to add 2021, right, year to date, feel free to do that. If you want to go back 2 more years, you can manipulate it that way. But I want to give you the tool so you really know these highlighted points of where you can find this data to help you make informed decisions.
Right. And I love that it creates a new discipline. For some people, it will create a new discipline.
Yeah.
It'll be like, these are the things that we need to track. And then you can report
Absolutely.
this back out. This should be going to your board. This should be going to your C-suite. Again, funders. I mean, I think it's so cool. I mean, again, I'm always impressed with the nonprofit nerd herself. And I always get to say, I know the nonprofit nerd, but this is like super duper cool.
Yeah. It is a great tool. And I literally have used it just recently with my executive coaching clients. And this gives us the information to set the goals for the year, right? Our good, better, and best goals. It helps us bring that information to another level. So we can say, based off of this funding at a glance, these are the areas that I want you to concentrate on.
Right. I love it. I mean, I'm super excited, Jarrett, that you would, share this. I know that this is part of your, your business. And so I know that, folks, pay handsomely for this. And I'm super appreciative that you would share this with, the viewers of the Nonprofit Show. Again, I'm Julia Patrick coming to you from my dirty office.
Live behind the scenes.
Ooh, I know. Can you tell? I'm like a matchy into blue and white kind of person. I never let anyone see this, but again, I've been joined by the nonprofit nerd herself, Jarrett Ransom, and she's been teaching us a masterclass today, which we're super excited about. Hey, part of this conversation, we mentioned executive coaching. And so if you come to either of us through the Nonprofit Show, we're extending for a limited period of time a $95 an hour executive coaching show special. So again, check out either one of us and see if we can help you or create a fit. Again, we want to thank our presenting sponsors. Without you, we would not be here with the nonprofit nerd herself, sharing all this amazing knowledge. So super appreciative to everybody who supports us. Whew, what a day. What a great week a great day to kick off a busy week.
It is. Thank you for this. Thanks for all of you for joining us. Love this masterclass. Julia, you've got one coming up in the near future. So again, when we can share our own expertise, we certainly will. So we really appreciate all of you joining us.
It's been great. Hey, everybody, as we always end our each episode of the Nonprofit Show, we want to remind you, stay well so you can do well. We're going to see you back here tomorrow.